Right. Sounds good. Well, we're here with the one and only boy. So about to have some fun, chat on some of the project and what's going on and overall fun, and we'll go from there. So he came into town yesterday and is hanging out, for a couple of days, and we'll go back to Metro Reps here shortly to see kind of how things are progressing and have some fun with those guys. Yesterday was a blast, and so yeah, here we go. So we'll walk through to start at least, with the screen share to get some prompts. And there we go from there. So yeah, this was the You Are My Sunshine, the Sunshine Shelby kind of precept or context, which boy had the pretty much, sole hand in the drawing and execution, and then helped imagine and reimagine some ideas with me and Avi. So it was the first kind of, I think, real experience that I'd had above and beyond with Nala, really, with at least an artful recreation. And then that was precepts apply into many other facets of life, once you get the hang of them. We even have a t-shirt today and had some of those things going on with hawks and trees and other stuff with Snow White and other fun little plays. So yeah, boys about as cool and nice as they get. So it'd be cool to hear how he kind of we came about meeting. I got a few pieces from him. I'd found them online, and I was like, man, this is the coolest stuff, and so fun and playful, and tied in so nicely to past tradition, kind of from Eastern style art plus fun Western style, and that's that blend that makes it so interesting and fun in the style. And having watched him do some of the art is like a once in a lifetime experience, but is hopefully many times it seems. So
Nice.
That's what it can be, right? And so effectively, yeah, this was the now is the inside part of the Sunshine Shelby, as we've taken the dark features, moved those to the outside, and the light features, and kind of hid them a little bit, but they're still there. You just got to kind of look to see them, right? So when you kind of were prompted to be like, can you help me create a car with us? How was that? How do you reckon? How do you think? And how the heck did you come up with these side leading sun lions and the leaping lion, as well as kind of other features, because I think it's super cool to get an idea of what mind is thinking.
So when we first met, you were attracted to the cats, the big cat paintings. And then I got into those paintings because my grandfather, he showed me like a painting of a tiger, and then he was like, something about painting tigers, if you don't draw it right, it could look like a house cat.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what is it? Is it the stripes? Is it the fierceness that you had to capture? So he pulled out a scroll and he showed me like a painting he really liked. His friend, I guess a police officer, gave him a painting, like a Chinese traditional painting. It was like a tiger climbing up a mountain and looking back, kind of like trying to look back. I feel like he's looking back to see if anything's following him or something, or kind of like hissing, or like kind of
he's leading the way for all we know, right?
Right, or walking up a path. But I was like, wow, it's fierce. And then I just started drawing tigers.
That's so cool. I had no idea. See, like
just to mess around to see if I could get it looking fierce or capture the essence of it. But as I started drawing them, they have different personalities, because you didn't really feel that fierceness all the time.
Yeah. Funny that he barks at this exact second, because when I look at Bama laying on that rug sometimes, he's like he reminds me of that little spirit animal.
I think he's trying to
it's open, I think. So all right, so you started drawing that as a result of that. Let me deal with that for 1 second.
Who's that? Yep. Oh, sweet. So
cool. That happens. We get these breaks and things. It gives us a pause, right, to reflect, and then you take that pause for thought and run with it, right? So that's cool. I didn't know that your grandpa, was he an artist too?
I feel like he's an artist.
Still alive?
He always, yes, he's still alive.
Cool.
And then he talks about it. But besides that, it goes back to us meeting. So
Treat.
I remember all that.
Sometimes you got to bribe these animals, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me see where we're going. Okay, that's how I'm trying to make the connection. So I started painting that, and then I started developing. I'm like, I don't feel that fierceness all the time. So how you saw the tiger climbing up the mountain, you're like, oh, maybe he's leading the way. So it's like a different theme.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have different feelings and different themes. So the theme is not always fierceness.
Yeah, which is the coolest part.
So then the tiger can be a house cat
Mm-hmm.
and could feel like it, but still be the tiger. So then I started drawing. So they all came out different. It didn't have that fierceness that I was trying to aim for.
Yeah,
but it could be its own thing.
That's why it's even cooler, because it plays into that the lion's tail of the tiger, which apparently you've been telling me the whole time as well, right?
And then
without me knowing that was actually, I didn't know that till now, that was a precept for it, right? So this is like the story combines together, right?
Right. And then when I met Kirza, she said, man, she started making noise and like expressions, how she would imagine how the tigers would feel if they could talk. Like she was almost animating them with the sound by looking at the painting. And I thought it was interesting because I didn't really think that far. I was just drawing them, and they were coming out and painting them, so they were coming out as is. And then she would just animate them, and then I was like, oh shit, that's probably how they do sound. Like, yeah,
it's cool. I mean, it goes to the projection reflection play, exactly. And everyone can be looking at the same movie and see completely different stuff and reimagine it, and how that's also imagination, and that's just too cool.
And then I'm like, oh, there's more than it's more than just a painting of a tiger. It's feelings encapsulated in it, but just in the same subject over and over.
So that feel is still, we come back to at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it's the
how are you
multiverse
from what you're being prompted by.
One universe of the tiger.
Perfect.
And then you started then I did the tiger pelt, because I like the silhouette of the rugs they would make, and then that's when you hit me up about it, or hit Avi up about it, and then I was like, okay, since then we fast forward, and you saying, let's design my truck. And then I'm like, okay, we have similar birthday month. We're both Leos, so I'm like, okay, we have the energy of fire, of being diligent and to spot.
And
to make things happen.
And you didn't really know much about Nala at the time, or the Leo stuff,
exactly,
or whatever else. You just end up coming up with it, right? Which is super cool, because all of the pretext with son and family, like Tayo, my brother's son, you can just keep going. All that Nala being born in Africa, the whole play on lions, that love lions, obviously. They're fantastic, and it's just a lot of fun, right? So go ahead.
So you had the essence already hovering around you, but we can't see it. So then it's about the sun and about leading, and a truck that goes that fast. It's like a train, that just like a big front that's like leading, and it's like I guess it could be the lines of all cars or vehicles of and what you're doing with it, you're trying to lead by example. So what you to make more ample, the intention of it, so then I was like, okay, then you have something leaning or lounging. Looking back, it just I just drew the design like the sun with the rays, just like the line with the mane, and it just kind of reminded me when I had like a long hair in high school, and after high school.
I love that that's part of you that's in the car.
And it was like the main of where I felt like, oh, I could be free and wild.
Yeah,
no,
for sure,
because you're able to just let loose and get it knotted and just be in the sun. So it just relates to you just connecting to yourself and the world. And then and just imagine us going fast in it and just like leaning back. So you're just like going fast in the car with the windows down and your hair is just blowing.
It's just an amazing reconceptualization as to how you were able to tie in self plus me plus that, and then create that, right? For me, I was recreating it almost as if it was like a reverse creation, right? It's like, okay, some bit of mind, then I can apply kind of things that I had as prompts but then you can reimagine them and apply them in a different way. And now we can reconceptualize how both of us had the imaginations about it. And it just adds so much more meaning to it, right? That like exponentially drives the car, right, into another level, because it's so much more fun and meaningful now. It's not just that, oh, it was X. And then that changed, right? All the precepts and context change, right? And it becomes this amorphous change like we're seeing with the dark side one, right? Where it's going into, oh yeah, everyone's kind of adding their stuff in different ways up front and reflecting upon it and finding new meanings in self and others, you know? And so I think that's super cool, because I would never have known half that stuff unless we're having the conversation. And that's my own issue for not having asked, right?
Oh no,
No, it's
you
not a
would
bad
eventually
thing. It's just-
know.
yeah,
You
exactly.
get the information anyways.
yeah, it comes out, right? But you have to take the time and give attention to, you know,
anything you do.
yeah. So it's super cool, man. That's amazing. All right. So is there any more on that one you think that was of any significance?
Just about
to you?
being free, you know,
Yeah,
and being the leader.
Perfect. That
You
is
know?
it is
radiating your freedom.
Yeah.
And, your wildness.
Perfect. Love it.
You know?
So then, yeah, speaking of radiating a little bit here and some wildness, you know, this is the side of the car. Obviously, you've seen at Metro Reps how this one played out, and I think you know, yeah, it's cool the way it is. The blue, the way it lights up the world, right? It gives you that blue and that green, and it was only supposed to be like this with the gray and then the orb, right, of the energy ball,
Right.
and instead it turned into this blue surrounding like that land, and like you know, it's a way to. So one of the things we're kind of to work on, you know, and there's a few pretexts on it, is a way to dreamland. So it's a way, it's a way to dreamland, and that's kind of Nala's thing. And this is kind of like dreaming the land. You don't know if it's giving or taking the energy. The snake, is a snake constricting because it's trying to resuscitate? Is a snake taking because it's viewed as evil? And it's the different plays on this stuff, right? And then, you know, sorry, you're gonna say?
No, I was just listening.
And so, like, yeah, we got this, you know, red tongue effectively here. You know, it leaves it a blank in the front, you know, like almost if you got steam coming out of it, but it's a tongue of like a snake almost in red that
What
prompts.
does it say?
Says what prompts you, and then us, you could also imagine as, but it could be art prompts us. It could be you are what prompts us. It could be we are what prompts us. It could be you are what prompts you, you know, whatever it is. And then there's a reflective perspective play in there. It's projection and reflection, right? Up on there. So it's just bending the words, and it worked out randomly perfectly for it. And it says we are what we see, and then seek, and then I did a circle K there because that's a directional kind of change play, as well as, again, how do you want to view it, right? It could be viewed as this snake is this devil, or it's this, you know, wise thing, or it's really just all of those things in different percentages at any point in time on any day, because we all morph and we all shift, right? You know, I'm not going to go into Morpheus plays and stuff like that, but that's a different animal, right? So, you know, and these are homages also to people like yourself. It's like, you make me glow in the dark. It's like, you know, when there are hard times, if you got people around you that can help you kind of find a way, right? You know, help make you, you know, and you can connect with, that is the best possible thing. It sparks you, you know, it's a spark in the dark, or dark in the spark, whatever you want to go with. If you're an energy trader, it's the same thing, in my opinion. You know, it's all talking energy here. So yeah, then we kind of just embedded some randomness in here. You know, we got my mom, she you know, she found this book the other day, you know, and again, we had that really cool experience where you kind of help set her free, you know, like that plays back off of that. You set her free. Now she was that running horse instead of that carousel horse. And so, like, part of the reason we played with that was because that was like me watching her just be like, oh yeah, I can do this my way, and I don't have to be doing what someone told me. And it was amazing to see. It was like a good, subtle, amazing way to help somebody do something. And I'd never really seen that almost, right? So to me, it was like, you can't replicate that, right? So
so that's like a person.
So this was hers, she did when she was younger, right? In an art book, she busted back out. Then she got my grandpa's one out, like I was telling you also. And, you know, like you'll see that featured in the car. And then, you know, Grandpa, her husband, he drew this little thing here. So it's that projection reflection. She projects this, and then there's him there, you know? So, you know, there's meaning in that, right? And that's N for Nala. You know, we got the AU ticket, which we were going on there, which is golden ticket, right? You are your golden ticket, and it's the fuel, right? The gas tank is you, right? Like, you are what makes you you, and like fuel that shit properly, you know, with people, with whatever it is that makes you go, right? And that's the whole play on that, right? It's there for a reason. Doesn't mean it's what everyone applies it as. If whatever, my brother did this little snake, you know, it's fun and it's playful.
Coco?
No, not Coco, but his sister did, the one on the back of the car, and that Lauren did. It's a shell bee. I said, okay, we'll make it shell bee. So I told her to do some with shells and bees, and then we've been discussing kind of thoughts on kind of, sea turtles and how you could say, cool, well, maybe the hare is really a sea turtle, right? I mean, sorry, not the hare. The turtle is really a sea turtle, right? And that they're just kind of fast and slow in different environments, and you got to appreciate that. But they all come to land to kind of bond, and you get that, where the water's edge meets is where kind of life happens, right? In and out. It's the most living kind of areas where there's water plus land meeting. And that's kind of, relationship and other stuff driven, not to go into a car play there, but my mom did this one, right? And so, yeah, she ended up putting it in infinity in there, whether I don't think we discussed that. So I'm glad you saw that. And I think I didn't even know if I really noticed it that way, but I was glad it wasn't the Ouroboros, whatever it is, where the thing is eating its own tail. The point is to not eat your own freaking tail because you're self-destructive.
Right.
So we don't have any of those really on the car, but it doesn't mean we don't have that feature within us, right?
Yeah. We try to lean away from
and
it.
so, you don't want to go to that destructive
connection.
mode. But it's kind of fun that, I just saw this one because we were going through the book with my mom. I saw this little, one, and it's a play on pirates. It's a play on kind of not booty, but it's a play.
Yeah.
X marks the spot, right?
It was something about the was it something about the pigments or something?
Yeah, it was about the pigments, right?
Yeah.
And toxicity, and whether it was arsenic or whatever it was, but it's like you want to be away from that toxic situation and environment, right? And you can use the bumper to kind of bump that crap out of the way. It wasn't the intent, but I'm just reimagining it now as I think of discussions and other stuff, right?
Cool.
So, she had this, and my sister helped to actually add in this circular,
windows.
It would almost remind me of things for boats, and I deal in boats and vessels and people, and whatever else. And people and patterns are all we really deal with, right?
Ships. Pirate ships.
So, yeah, this is a different vessel, right? This guy here, and we got pirate ships. You're right. Yeah, that ties in perfect. See, the things you don't see that others can see that add the value is just. This is the whole point of this, right? And so we are supposed to have the side leading sun lines looking back in toward each other, right? Because though their backs are turned to each other, no matter how far apart they get, they still have a potential for connection. Is the fun part about it. And it's like the same thing. It's like, man, you could have an ex, but you're still gonna be connecting in some way, shape, or form somehow, whether it's on your mind for a split second, whether it's in reality, or whether you got kids, what else you got. There's always a look back, right? Because there's always been that relation in some semblance of the connection, and you just can't disconnect, and you want to reconnect at times, right? So it depends how you want to skew it. The point is that no one's ever really out of sight or out of mind. We just like to pretend that that's the case. So it's a bad excuse that we all use. It's not me or commentary or judging, but that bad did imply that. So then, yeah, actually, this is going to change. So Pablo's daughter yesterday just showed him a picture, and it almost mimicked exactly what Nala had drawn a while back that was going to go on the top. So, again, as this is like a unit and a family style thing, we're going to have, I don't know how he's going to design it or lay it out there, but we'll have, his family's and my family's thing up on there. Cool. Right. And so we already had design elements of his, and this is Nala's, which is like kind of reminds me of the rainbow rose, someone reminded me of the moon, a shell, evil eye, whatever you want to call it. It's attributing however you see it, right? An evil eye is either a regular eye or an evil eye. And then, some religions or people will want to choose to see it as evil, and then that's funny because it's a blessing for some of them, you're like, this is, it's a skew, it's a judgment and the bias, and that's okay. We all have that, but to realize that that's the case is what it is. So then, we're switching here. Lauren ended up doing this one, Yeah. So it ends up featuring like heavily on the car, but she had this little fun, more playful snake, and then kind of the more fierce, ferocious one, which actually kind of funny that it actually points in toward yours, that you had created, right? And they're just different energies. One has blossoming flowers, right? And like part of this thing plays into that was you make me grow in the dark. But again, some people may think that that would be reinterpreted instead as something else because we have snakes, and that's okay. But the cool part is like, that's a point I didn't really realize or think about when creating that with Pablo and in mind, right? It was kind of just like, okay, well, I get it, so that won't be there as such. But I think we grow the most as people when we go through these forced reflections, right? And that's what the hard times are. We've either made them hard or got to a place where others have, and you have to reestablish and reimagine. Do you want those connections? How are you connecting with yourself? How are you reflecting? And what's your perspective? And the perspective thing is key. Like, it applies to every little bit of life. And, this project with everyone has made me reconceptualize how I interact with people and how others with me, I think, and it can be a hopeful, good, productive thing. So I threw in the mix in here, the blue heron from the one night you were around, and these guys just keep popping up, and there's so much fun, in there. So he's going to be there. And then, we now have a new tie-in on this. When this was created, this was in Nicaragua, right? Because they had sea turtles everywhere, and had been kind of thinking of a prompt and talks on that, and had seen some stuff in Florida. I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. We'll put that on that side. Well, it looked kind of like a mirror. We recognized over the last day or two here, we end up watching Sleeping Beauty, and then you get your own new thoughts from that. And then we learned a bunch of other stuff about flowers and trees and how that was the first, animated color picture. And then, we have a projection reflection piece that Boy had done when he came to visit, and it's just perfect. It's like the exact representation would also help to drive further ideas on the car and the truck, and it's I'll have to show that one later on. But this M here is for meta, so it's the trail left behind, but it's not left behind really, from the glowing snake, right? Then my sister Katie did that when she was in Europe, kind of on the back of a napkin, right? My
With
mom,
this?
yeah, this little guy, he's
It's
fun.
really cool.
My mom did this Shelby. It's the one that matches the exact kind of one that was actually there. She'd never seen it before, so that was nice that she picked that exact shell. It's in Metro Reps. And then this is a seek now, seek no. So you're supposed to be no, so you can play with that in a few different ways. There's like, many iterations of that. And that E is kind of that energetic thing into this S, because the S is kind of snakes around. It gives you, it's a different chuckle for a different reason. It gives you this different dimension and iteration, right? You're not just horizontal, you're not just vertical. You have this kind of Z or S, however you want to play it, that gets you kind of to move around, right? And it's that change in direction and dimension that makes it fun. So that's what that's kind of a play on, right? So you've seen the car since then.
Nice.
That's what it looked like Back to the Future almost, somebody said. So this is obviously your cool piece there, front and center. It almost looks like a little bit of love in there to me.
Yeah, like written out in cursive.
Yeah, this is a pendulum play. So 101 and 010 effectively. You can put a dot or a punctuation wherever the heck you want, it changes and shifts the number. But okay, is one at the top and one at the bottom what we're looking at? That's a massive polarity. Or is one in the middle where the mean is kind of that? Is that where you view it as? So you can view it as 0 at the top and bottom, and then 1 kind of toward the middle, or you can view the extremes as the ones, whatever it is, it all comes back around, right, to a degree. And so this says right, what's left. That plays off the Sukowski guy in his handwriting,
like those fonts.
and so it says you have a chance to make what's right left, or right what's left. It's same with a boat or a vessel. You can still write your ship, right? You can write your story, right? You can write our story. It doesn't have to be his story. It doesn't have to be any of that. It's all reimagination, right? And it can be a lot more fun and interesting. These are pit vipers that we came across in Costa Rica. The guy said he'd seen 3 in his life. Erica drew those.
3?
Yeah, so there's a front and center. So my mom and Erica
counted the one that you saw.
Yeah, so it almost got it spooked Erica's partner Sarah's daughter, who went up ahead, but then she came back around. So you have a lot of play with it. But it was a super interesting experience to see how everyone responded as a result of that deadly threat. But the snake didn't want to mess with anyone. The snake was there. He just wanted to mind his own business. But sometimes we don't see that the snakes are around, right? And so there's good and bad about the snakes, right? Sometimes it says we're a little bit ahead. Maybe as a group we'd be having a better chance. And if I didn't go, who knows? Maybe Nala got bit, but I wasn't even supposed to go on the trip. I don't know how it all would have played out. That's the whole thing. Is a lot of random luck and chance sometimes. And the 23 plays off of Michael Jordan. It plays off chromosomes. I had called the car for a second, also a DXDY the other day, but this was already on there long ago. The 32 is with Bruce Lee and Bill Hicks and a few other plays there.
Bill Hicks.
Michael Jordan is obviously up here in the middle. Pablo's brother is a really cool artist, but he doesn't do artistry full time. But he's really creative, like my sister is. And so he did some stitching of Michael Jordan, and you can kind of see it here, though it's obviously edited. And so we put it up there for fun. Meta loves basketball. And then this F, I had this kind of sounds strange, like a flash at 4 or 5 in the morning one night when I was up in New York visiting, and it had this thing that prompted 5 hours of kind of writing and random drawing or creation. And it was this F, and it's this feel. It was like just a feel, right, effectively. And it's that function of an eel. It's like that, to electrically charge, right, to glow, to kind of move and do it a bit differently, right? And this says, I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh, delusion all, right? Because they say delusional. It's like, nah, it's like, I feel that all can feel and comprehend one another in some way, shape, or form. And I like to believe that a perspective on that is cool, right? And I put in here, that's effectively saying that we're quality quantum mechanics, right? You know, we are the supercomputers that we so seek, and AI and these things aren't really threats. That's, you know, past kind of intelligence. It's there to help us, to free up time and to allow us to create and innovate and make, you know, things better for people, including ourselves. That's the premise. Like, why are we not doing that? If we don't realize that people have exponential potential, then we're discounting ourselves and everyone else around us. And that's kind of the take on that. There's a little shark in here. That's your turtle you'd sent over. We kind of morphed on the front to play off the turtle theme. You know, we'll fit a couple other random things in here, I think, that have evolved over the last few days. That's Pablo, who is the, you know, probably the real creator, I'd say here, who was able to bring together all these concepts from kind of lighting it up. You know, with Richie, he had all the connections, he had all the work, you know, he understands electrical engineering stuff. I had no idea about that until that. And so like him having the ability to do art, and that is super freaking cool and fascinating. He's just super genuine and super nice. And I mean, this is really kind of culmination of also of his self too, right? And everyone around. And so his ability to organize, create, like, you know, he can take a Photoshop thing that I want to do. It takes me an hour to do a shitty job on, and he can do it in literally 5 seconds. And I'm just like, man, it's just shows that everyone has their own value attribution as to how we do things together, right? And that's the coolest thing. When you can start to see potential in everybody, then you see the potential also of yourself with everyone. That's again with the truck like I before. It's cool to see how they deconstructed the people who are doing the executional work, like Rasta and his whole crew. Like, it's amazing to see how they actually bring it to life, right? They are creators too, right? They are not just executioners. Like, to call things like execution is nonsensical. It's a creation still from top to bottom. It's just where and how do you add kind of the most value at any point in time. And the stuff they do is so cool, you know, and to chat with them more and more is always just interesting, because it's such a nifty things, that the way that they see it and they do it, and they try to actually make and solve problems. Like watching them solve problems together, such good collaborative work. And you know, you see that versus what sometimes we see in our own entities and companies, and you're like, man, like you can learn from that and what they've got going on at Metro Reps and what Bruno and, you know, the guys have created. It's amazing, you know. And so we'll have him put something on the car as well, because it's a homage to them to be having a willingness to deal with something that is this, you know, convoluted, but has embedded meanings that maybe putting out there, but as well as can be reinterpreted, right? And so then you may or may not like this, but I might have messed with your stuff a little bit. Also here, this is a fun one, because this is obviously Joker. I'm just going to attribute this to be serious. Why so serious? In a different play than just being SERIOUS. But I think we should be looking at it a little bit more fun, you know, if we can. And so that my aunt did this, you know, she was seriously saying that she was, you know, numero uno on everything in a fun way, because she does that. And we all gonna mess around with it sometimes and that have that perception. But so, you know, like these orbs all glow, you know, and glow, but the bunny grows though when it's dark. So like it plays on it again. And I didn't even realize that till now. This will be more bright than this will be when it's the right look at it, right? When the light's on it, it will glow back almost white, right? Is the intent.
Nice.
And
like
this bunny, you know, we took them all and they grow as there's less light, right? Less moonlight or sunlight there as well, right? As the darkness, this bunny's bigger, right? And he gets smaller as he comes back down. It's a pendulum play. You know what I mean? So maybe here we imagined it as this. This looks like there's less. This looks more like the zero part of the pendulum, but this one's more like a big one, right? So you see like the 0 ones, the 1 zeros. I didn't even reimagine this till now. It's reimagined, right? But it worked by itself. And so I just kind of took the one you'd had, which was the front carb of high fructose for the year of the rabbit. And this has been like just run through the rabbit holes here, you know, and they're yours. Just do it. You know, it's not bad. If you have an inclination, just go have fun with it. You know, your own sort of what people want to try to refer as relatively crazy, all relatives, man. So this is the toucan, and that's a you can, because TU is you in Spanish. So I had to tie that in because I did it. You know, but that was because I was in Costa Rica and Nicaragua and having these experiences. And, you know, one of the things that makes sense to me is to put meaning with words and incorporate them into structure so that you can see it and reinterpret it what it is. You may not see what it is, but then there's a lot of playfulness in there. And I have the little write-ups normally about what they actually have in there, you know. But Nala did this thing which goes from me. And I asked her to draw a we, and she did a me into we. And the whole thing is we, me, and me, we, versus me, 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 me. That's a boring ass tune. Nobody likes that. After a while, you get sick of it. It's like a song on repeat. It could be the best thing ever. You're gonna get bored of it. So this is for Zoe, for Alonzo, and you know, he got the cheap piece off of you, which is, you know, one of the favorite things I've ever seen you do. And then there's always way more cool stuff coming out. But you know, it's like follow the yellow brick road. And I think that that is a theme that ties in together a lot of the stuff we've also been talking about. And so Zoe reflected is Oz. And so putting that in gold in the back, that's the Sukowski guy's thing with the snaking.
Nice.
That obviously has your middle name that you sent over there. That'll go in there. This is you guys showing me that, oh, your name, when you turn it on the side, when you wrote it like that, randomly when we were playing with Sumi Ink, is a snake. I was like, okay, that's cool. Maybe I'm not all bad, or all bad I am. I don't know. Depends on who you talk to, right? And then this is a kind of infinite playback loop through snaking graphic there, right? This has the Root River kind of logo, and you know, that's what's in the backyard from the graffiti we did, right?
That's your logo?
Yeah, it's the logo. So
Cool.
Austin, Andre, and I each did a piece, right? And then there's row in there, kind of like rowing your boat. You know, there's little plays on a bunch of stuff. My dad, because the guys aren't last, you know, they're part of the vehicle, even if they do put themselves in the caboose to make the whole engine go at times, just as the females help pull it along. It's all this interplay and appreciation. My dad had his daughter Alana, who's also Nala's name if you reiterate it, right? Which we didn't know actually before, you know, naming Nala that or pay attention to it. She did this, and it's a coral snake, right? And coral snakes I think can be deadly, but normally they're just pretty damn beautiful. So then you have this play on the snakes being unleashed by the Joker, and then Batman kind of jumping on it, and a few of these little random iterations. You know, the Weaver guy I had to put in here because the Van Gogh prompt was from you. And like, again, I went and did like 30 self-portraits, and I don't do that normally, and it doesn't normally make any sense, but you can let the damn crazy out doing that. I can tell you that much. And so, yeah, this is the Weaver. I didn't even know he did this piece. And then like a week ago or so, I was like, shit, that's got to go in there. So then he's weaving it.
How'd you find
and
it?
you see how these things tie in. This guy goes to this guy, this guy goes to this guy, and this guy goes to this guy. He's the butterfly, the mind. He's the fast guy because he's got his legs, you know. He's weaving this all together as the base, right? And that's the kind of flow. And he's flying off the flywheel, right? And that's the random me and random we. And that's, you know, kind of how it all plays, right? And it says actually right there, I think. Right. I think we're supposed to go on the left side though. Shit. No, it's okay. It's more fun about it. It's actually right for once. That's actually good. We get right. What's the right is actually right on one side of the thing, but it's not full right. This would be full right off the truck, right? And then this is the randomness of just saying, cool, I'm going to take a prompts for 8 hours, come up with ideas.
This is all you did, all this?
Yeah. And then the next day I spent doing that. So it's probably, yeah, I think I threw a couple other random things in there. So that's why you see extra miscellaneous ones. That's Avi's one I threw in there. I'm going to put his in there in another spot because he's, you know, been part of the whole process the whole way. So
who organized this?
Pablo had a guy organize it with him. So like,
wow,
you know, this is logic all, you know, instead of logical. It's just taking all these precepts. Yeah, they took it, they did vectorization. And that's kind of ion energy, like ION, I1. There's a lot of play on that, right? Like imagination, like ION. So what we have here is conception, right? That's kind of your base idea, to projection, to reflection, right? And then iterations around that. It's Project Ion is the other way to say it, but that's only part of the thing, right? It's not a full premise, right? So, you know, it's how do you play with these things, and like Nala's got a couple little random ones in here, you know, and then there's funny. This is actually, you know, I'd done this for more of like a play on apple and restitching the apple back together, but that plays actually on the Snow White thing that we did last night, which we may talk a bit about today, because when you see again the iterations different people have, it's super fun. But these are all things, okay, you can read it, you can reimagine it, you know, you can do it. And it's like, again, you got your own angel and demon, right? And all this other stuff. I have a fun one in there that's a Tupac one that, and it's like reimagine the way that is and the way that's set up into a we thing, and then into I don't know if I can find it even, but it's somewhere in there, I think, into a piece thing. So, if you want to go two piece instead, just add some e's in there. That's kind of the moo play, right? The moo, it's a thing. It's not whatever, right? So you see there's just a lot of randomness in here, right? We can go through more of that as we go, but that was just like
I like the look.
and you have to see that from like above, right? So to really get an idea, so we're going to be able to do a drone shot over it. But if you don't take time to see or look or appreciate, then you don't know what you're missing, right? And that's like just a different way to play it. This is just nothing that is saying anything, oh, this is super special. It's just that this can allow us to imagine differently if we choose. No one has to do anything. But if you so choose, you can reflect on pieces. You can pick and choose what makes sense. You can add to, subtract to, reimagine. And that's the whole point, right? And maybe points are dangerous, but yeah, I guess this is one to play with. So any other things, thoughts, or otherwise?
I think that was good.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. Time for us to roll to Metro.
Let's do it.
All right. Stop share. Stop recording.